Well, hey guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Sheila, by the way. I thought I would do a follow-up video to the one I did a couple of weeks ago about being 64 and looking for a job with some physical considerations. And spoiler, I did get a job at Walmart. So I thought I would talk about money because I am also on Social Security. And I finally got my first paycheck, so I can see how the budget's going to go. My daughter quit her job, you know, the one she got for 2 weeks. Yep, that one. And it looks like my sister may be moving down to the state I live in because she too is retired. So, without further ado, let's get on with it.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day.
Okay, so you know that I am officially retired. And some of you also know that my mother died a couple of months ago. Well, no, actually more than a couple of months ago. I want to say, oh my God, I guess I should remember the date, and I don't. I'm sorry. I want to say 4 months ago, because I think I left Amazon in April, and she died within the month before that. So March, I'm going to say March. And if you remember, I told you that there was no inheritance because my mother forgot to alert the insurance company when she turned 80. That basically killed the value of her $25,000 life insurance policy. And because my sister didn't know about it, because my mother didn't mention it, and she came across it, you know, by chance one day, and by then it was too late. So basically, what the value that policy still had was just enough to bury my mother. So there wasn't any inheritance until it appears that when a person dies, if they die and they have already received that Social Security check for the month, then whoever is caregiver or whoever is co-named on that bank account can keep the money. But if that check arrives after that person has died, then Social Security wants that money back. And that is exactly what happened with my sister. Social Security dropped the check. You know, she alerted the funeral home, and it appears that the funeral home alerted Social Security. So Social Security went into the account and snatched that money back, which kind of put my sister in a position. But she also noticed a ghost amount that before, you know, she hadn't noticed was, you know, also came out of the account. So my sister's really good at tracking stuff down. So she tracked it down, and it turns out the amount was from an insurance company. So she contacted the insurance company, and it turns out that my mother had 3 additional policies. One on life insurance for each of her 3 children, my sister, my brother, and myself. Now, unfortunately, the 2 policies for my sister and my brother, my mother stopped paying on for whatever reason, you know, right about the time she moved in with my sister in 2020. And it was the kind of policy that if you don't pay on it, then it feeds off of itself. So basically for 5 years, this policy was self-paying for itself out of the value of the actual policy. So out of a $25,000 policy, there really wasn't much left. And so, you know, the insurance company would only talk to my sister about her policy. They needed my brother and my phone number to talk to us about our individual policies. And it turns out that my sister's policy, now my mother always said, when people talk to you about money, unless they're a credible source, either consider whatever amount they said twice, you know, do it ×2 or cut it in half. So my sister said that her policy was only had a face value if she cashed it in of $1,000. I don't know whether my sister's a credible source or not, so I'm going to say she got $2 grand, okay? I don't know what my brother got. He took care of that himself. My policy was different. My mother continued to pay on my policy. That's why my sister noticed that ghost amount disappearing after Social Security came in and snatched their money back. And so they called me. My sister gave them my number. They called me. And because my policy was being paid for continuously, they gave me the option of continuing to make payments as my own life insurance policy or cashing it in. And I said, well, if I cashed it in, what would it be? And when they told me, I ain't gonna lie, I said, you know what, send me a check. Tell me what you want me to do, and y'all can send me a check. And so they did. So I see that unexpected bounty from heaven as a small nest egg for me. God forbid I have to replace the Jeep. Well, at least I can do so without causing financial harm to myself. And that's how I see that money. Also, I got a refund from the state. They said I overpaid by hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, well, who the hell did that? I have an accountant. And they said, well, Miss, you overpaid. They sent me a check. And then I think I told you last week that the Social Security Department sent me 2 checks for the 2 months I waited for my appointment, and I got my first Social Security check this month. So at this point, Sheila is in a way better financial position than I ever thought I would be. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you all know about 3 or 4 years ago, I freaked out because I realized I had nothing saved for retirement. That was the reason why the moment I got hired at Amazon, I started having them take the max out of my check because they would match it up to 4% of my income. And so between having that little lump sum when I finally left Amazon and the little windfall I hadn't expected from Social Security and a life insurance policy my mother had on me, not to mention, since when does the state ever give you money back, I canceled my vacation. Because, you know, my daughter and I had planned on going on vacation in August. And I just honestly feel like when you get pennies from heaven unexpectedly and they come at a time that is like right on the money, I think that there is some type of responsibility you should have in how you spend that money. If I honestly thought I was going to have to move into my daughter's house, I might have been so stressed about that, which is, you know, okay, I'll go on vacation because I might as well have a little joy in my life before moving in with my daughter. But then I decided to just get a job. So, and I had 3 months off. So I don't feel that stress now, and I don't feel like I really need a vacation. And plus, you know, my daughter was going to pay for everything. The gas, the hotels. The only thing I had to pay for was the fees for me to take my dog and to feed myself. Well, the dog feeds for $400. And I'm looking at the dog going, hell, he don't need a vacation either. And I said, honey, I'm sorry, don't be mad, but I think that I'm not going to go. I've been blessed with a small nest egg, and I just don't think that would be the correct way for me to spend it. Because for the last 3 months, I've been on vacation. So, yeah. My sister is retired, and she put her name on a list for subsidized housing for elderly. Because my sister is in not good physical shape, and she uses a cane all the time. And I'm like, but you realize those lists take years. And she goes, well, I'll wait, you know. And I'm like, well, why don't you just move down here? You wouldn't even have to get a subsidized apartment. You could get a regular apartment that's still going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than the 2-bedroom you share with Mom. Because she moved from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom when my mother went to live with her. And she didn't want to do that. She likes the hustle and bustle of the city. And because my family is from Baltimore. But now that her health is failing, I mean, like, how much hustle and bustle do you need? I said, you don't even need all that hustle and bustle. You can't even take advantage of it now. So why not move to a place that's got a slower pace and a lower cost of living? And as she continues to try to wait out for this subsidized apartment that may take 2 years, it is seriously eating into her finances. To the point that she's like, I can't travel anymore. I really have to think about, if I spend gas to go somewhere. And I said, well, I know you, and that is not what you're comfortable with. And so up until recently, she kept saying no. But now she's saying, Sheila, you might be right. Because she's up there by herself. Yes, I have a brother there, but he lives with his son. And she's basically, once my mother died, because my mother and sister were very close. And my mother was her backup. My brother and my stepfather were very close. And my stepfather was my brother's backup. My brother has the old family home now. So without my mother there, she's by herself. She's not used to being by herself like that. Whereas me, I left home at 17, moved down here when I was, 27, and I never looked back. I'm used to being on my own, knowing no matter what the problem is, I have got to work it out because there's nobody I can call. So I think as she sees her standard of living going down every month, she's starting to get a little depressed. And so my daughter and I are going to go up because we were supposed to go to the beach for a week in August, and I said I don't want to go now. And she quit her job, so now she's not going now either. I still have the time off, so I think we'll go up and visit her. But I am really hoping she considers just moving down here to the state I live in, because her money will go so much farther. She is blessed to have a small pension from her job as well as her Social Security. So it would do her well here. Now, let's talk about, the reason why my daughter quit that job is because for the last 9 years she has worked for a private doctor. And there's only 2 doctors in the practice. And she started out at 30 hours a week, which was basically all she needed. And then she started a little business on the side, so she was good. Then she went down to anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week for the last 2 years when she was going to school to be an operating room scrub nurse. Okay? The problem is my daughter has not worked full-time in a job for a long time. By the time you add the fact that this is a 40-hour-a-week job and it is stressful, before she only had to get used to the operations that 2 doctors performed. The hospital has 15 doctors, so every day she goes to work, she doesn't know what doctor she's going to be assisting in the operating room or what surgery they're going to be performing. And so it is incredibly stressful. When she started talking about how far she had to walk from the parking lot to get into the hospital, because now we're being petty, I knew she was unhappy with this job. She didn't even tell me she quit. One day I called her and I said, what's wrong? And she goes, nothing. I said, you don't sound right. She goes, well, Mom, I might as well tell you. I said, you quit the job, didn't you? She goes, yeah, but it's hard to tell you stuff like that. Because the first thing I want to know is, can you afford to quit this job? Because sometimes you got to suck some shit up, okay? She goes, Mom, I got a safety net. I got a couple of months worth of bill money in the bank, plus the vacation money. If I have to give up the vacation money, then I got 4 months of bill money in the bank. I said, okay. And she goes, but the real problem was, Mom, it's a stressful job. And I haven't worked 40 hours in almost 10 years. She goes, and it was always the job she wanted. She always wanted to be an emergency room nurse because of the hustle and bustle. That's why she went to nursing school when she was in her 20s. But now she's 30-something, okay? And she has a 4-year-old and a small business. Okay, so now you don't need a bunch of hustle and bustle and stress in your work life, because now you come home dead tired and cranky and you snap at my baby. And she goes, Mom, I don't want to be that person. It's just too much for me. I'm just tired when I get home. I don't spend enough time with Adonis, and I get cranky over the smallest thing. She goes, Mom, I don't want to be that parent. I said, okay, you got a plan? She goes, yep. I put in the application for another surgery center that called me, and 2 more applications that are non-medical related. She goes, somebody got to come through. She goes, but I'll take whatever comes through. I just can't keep doing this job. So fortunately, the surgery center, they called her. She told them the truth about why she left her last job and how stressful it was. And they understood because the surgery center only has 3 doctors, not 15. You have to get used to their procedures. And they appreciated the fact that she was honest with them. And you can look at her work history and tell she's not somebody who bounces from job to job. She stayed at her last job almost 10 years. And the job before that, as soon as she got out of college. And that was like 3 or 4 years before she went to the other one. So they decided that she was a good risk. And they sent her an offer letter. Once she passed her background check, they offered her the job. And she starts Monday. And she is so happy. But mostly it's because it's a small office again, like the last job. And she only has to work 3 days one week and 4 days the other week. That allows her some time to breathe, some time to be a present and patient parent, and allows her to be prepared for her events. I said, girlfriend, you got lucky. But then so did I. Because I was really incredibly concerned about whether or not I could find a job that I could still do. Because one, I'm 15, almost 20 pounds overweight, which does not work well with arthritis knees. And can I stand on my feet for 8 hours a day? Because Amazon and the pace that we were having to keep became too much for me. It was time for me to go, and I was honest enough to know that. I was just happy that by contributing to the 401k, it gave me a little bit of money to figure out what to do next. And if it took some time, well, I could afford the time. And then all the other pennies from heaven just made it an ideal situation. So here's the thing. When I applied for the Walmart job, I didn't know anything about an accommodation. But when I went in for my onboarding, and you do 2 days of computer work where they teach you everything about Walmart that you ever wanted to know, I got to the part about disabilities and accommodations. Now, when I went in for my interview, I did not take my cane. But that was a hell of a walk from the parking lot to the back of the store. And I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow, if I got to come back here tomorrow, I'm going to have to bring that cane. And if they decide not to hire me because I look decrepit, so be it. But I can't make this walk again without the cane. So when I went in for the next couple of days to do all the onboarding on the computers, I took my cane. And when I got to the part about disabilities and accommodations, I turned around and looked at the HR lady and I said, is this true? You'll offer an accommodation? She goes, you know, it's up to management if they see a need. I said, well, you know, when I'm at home and I'm doing dishes, I have a little footstool that I put my leg on just to kind of keep me balanced so my back doesn't hurt, my knees don't hurt, and I'm fine. It takes all the pressure off. I said, would it be possible for me to get a little stool? And she goes, yes. So towards the end of that day, I actually had to go up front to start being trained on the cash register. The first 2 hours, because it was an 8-hour day, the first 2 hours I shadowed someone, and then they put me on the register behind her, so if I had any problems I could ask. And yeah, I had lots of problems because I got 2 hours worth of training, okay? But it about killed me to stand there. Now, I worked at Amazon for 5.5 years and my feet never hurt. By the end of that night, my feet hurt, my knees hurt, my back hurt, and I'm thinking I can't do this job. I damn near cried. I'm like, I can't do this job. And so about 15 minutes before my, about 15 minutes before my shift was up, the manager came over to me and she goes, oh, by the way, they said you can have a stool if you need it. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, let me show you where it is. I think they wanted to observe me, you know. So she showed me where it was, and she said, when you come in the next time, just get a stool. You can use it for as long as you feel like you need it. And that is why I have a stool in my cashier station at Walmart, because I asked. Now, there was some tension the first couple days I was there once some of the other older cashiers, because there are a lot of older cashiers and a lot of older people who work in my Walmart. There was some tension because, as somebody said, Well, they didn't offer me a stool. I got bad knees and a bad back. Nobody offered me a stool. And you know what? I'm like, I'm not trying to get into any of this. But with that stool, it takes the pressure off my knees and my back, and I can be bubbly, happy, polite, friendly Sheila, the cashier. And I am damn good at customer service because I actually really love being a cashier. Now, do I have to get off this stool sometimes? Yes, I do, because I still have to do everything all the other cashiers do. I have to keep my area with all the candies and notions and potions by my register. I have to keep it neat. You know, take that head of lettuce that somebody put up there, put it under my counter. At the end of my shift on that register, everything that people didn't want, I have to take it over to the service station. There's a place behind the service station with bins for every department in the store. You put it in the appropriate bin. You empty your trash. All the hangers you take off the clothes, you put those in the bin. If I need cigarettes, because somebody wants cigarettes, I have to walk over to the self-checkout, because the person who runs self-checkout keeps the cigarette keys, and tell them I need cigarettes. If people have cases of water, you'd be surprised. A lot of times people just say, give me the gun, I'll do it. And as long as it beeps and I see everything pop up on my screen, we good. But a lot of times I'll walk around there myself and do it myself. Because the stool doesn't stop me from doing my job. The stool makes it easier for me to do my job, because the stool takes away the pain so I can be my happy, bubbly, super cashier self. And I am incredibly grateful and thankful that Walmart was willing to do that for me. Now, money. I make $14 an hour. My Social Security check will cover my rent, my cell phone bill, and my electric bill in the winter time, because I don't pay for heat. In the summertime, my bill is like 3 times what it is in the wintertime. And then after that, I need additional $400 to compensate, because I'm running the AC all the time. In the wintertime, when I don't have to pay for rent, I just need an extra $300. So basically, I worked 64 hours in the last 2 weeks, and my first paycheck was a couple of dollars short of $800. I only need $300 or $400 to go with my Social Security check to cover all of my bills, because I don't have any debt. I don't have a car payment. I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any debt other than the day-to-day living expenses. So that means half of one of my paychecks bi-weekly, and the other bi-weekly check, basically I can put in savings, or if something comes up like the car needing fixed, I can do it without touching my savings. At this point, I told my sister, if she agrees to move down here, so we can at least all be here together, because like I said, we're both decrepit, only she's in worse shape. And if she feels like she may need some help with first security deposit and first month's rent, I can help her with that. But my main thing is to get her here, because Baltimore is too far away. And when she starts to feel depressed, she won't answer her phone. And that is too damn far to be getting in the car to see how she is. So at this point, I'm thankful, and I love my job, and it's just easy for me to do. If I have to do it till I'm 80, I can, because I probably will, because I always have to have a little something coming in on top of the Social Security. But never in my wildest dreams, not 3 or 4 years ago, when I was really freaked out about my retirement, did I think I ever thought it would end up this well. So yes, I am 64 years old, I am retired, and I am happy to say I got a little job at Walmart, because at least it keeps me financially comfortable. Ooh, excuse me. So there we are. Until the next time, take care, stay blessed. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.